pledge allegiance. Oh, I'm sorry.
You said when you're ready. When you're ready. It's the guy over there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies.
Here. 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 Here.
November 5th, our budget work session. November 24th, our regular council meeting, and December 8th, our special council meeting. Were there any corrections or additions to those? Seeing none, those are going to stand as written and distributed. Reports and communication, Mayor Hardman, we have a party going on.
Yeah, we got lots of
We got lots of stuff.
today. Speaking of parties, so one thing I do want to say is one of the more pleasurable things I get to do as mayor is go out and celebrate certain things that happen within the city. And this past week, I had the pleasure of doing just that. We have a young lady who lives in our city who turned 105 years old this past couple of days ago. So Lillian Russell, she lives over in thank you, Mallard Cove. I was blanking on the name. I was going to say something else. So yeah, Channel 12 was there and met her, and it's amazing that I've had the pleasure of meeting several folks who have turned 100 here in the city over the years, and they all have varying capacities of ability to interact and continue to do some of the things they used to do. And she seems as spry as if she was 75 or 60 or who knows. So it's a pleasure, and it was a pleasure to name a day after her and wish her and her family the best. If it's okay with you, Miss Hoppy, because I know we have lots of things going on today, but I'm going to defer to Miss Knight for a moment.
Okay.
Because I know she has invited a group of folks here. So we might as well get them kind of up toward the top of our agenda this evening. And I think she's...
Amy Sharpshire is our president, so she's going to read the bio of all the seniors, and I will help her pass out gifts.
Well, these are the senior what? So tell us a little bit about who we're honoring tonight and why.
Because this year we did not have a swim season, and most of these young ladies that started swimming when they were 6. So 6 and 7 and 8. So we did not get to honor them. Every year, our last home meet, we honor our seniors. We give them a little token of our appreciation of being such great swimmers. And we did not have the opportunity to do that. So I asked Vicki, and she said, well, yeah, let's do it at December meeting, because they'll all be home from college. I think a lot of them are already home from college, but in the circumstance.
We didn't know the COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So Amy's going to take it from there.
Thank you.
Sue.
Thanks, Amy.
Like Sue said, with my introduction, I'm the president of the Sharks. We did not have a season this year. Obviously, the pool was open, but we made a very difficult decision to not have a swim season for the Sharks. It was very difficult, but I think it was the best decision made overall. But I want to first thank the city of Sharonville for all your support that you show us during the summer and all through the year, really, with the fine facilities that we have used to. We love the pool. We love Swim Safe. Swim Safe is awesome. We absolutely love the whole atmosphere that they've brought with it, as well as Michael Blomer. I can't speak enough
And
of
he is on Zoom.
how much we love Michael. With that said, we would like to recognize at least the seniors this year that they didn't get a real graduation. They, lost a lot, and they lost their senior year of swimming with the Sharks, and it was sad for them. And we just want to reach out to them and acknowledge all their hard work that they put forth with the Sharks. And with that said, we'll start with Caitlin Kerrigan. She's being escorted by her mom and dad, Casey and Angie Kerrigan. She's been swimming with the Sharks for 9 years. In high school, she was the top 20 in her class. She was on cross country, swim team, National Honor Society, Vikings, and Symphonic Orchestra. Her plans after she graduated is to attend Ohio State University, and she's studying health and science on a physical therapy track. In 10 years, she sees herself graduating from grad school and working as a physical therapist in a pediatric or sport setting. Her best Shark moment was swimming at championships with her friends. And anyone listening, her advice to any Shark swimmers is have fun and make new friends. Congratulations, Caitlin. Next up is Maggie McDonald, escorted by her mom, Amy. She swam for the Sharks for 12 years. Her high school activities and awards was she swam for MND all 4 years and was the captain her senior year. She was a member of the National Honor Society, Spanish National Honor Society, and Rho Kappa. Her plan after high school was to attend Xavier University, majoring in nursing. And where she sees herself in 10 years is to be a registered nurse, potentially having a master's degree, and have a dog. Her best Shark moment was with Emily Meckley, and she switched events during a swim meet. And let's see, her advice to our Shark swimmers is enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah, it does. It goes by quick. Congratulations, Maggie. Next, we have Reese Rappin. She swam for the Sharks for 1 year. Her high school activities was Health Occupation Student of America State Champion, HAC Cincinnati Spirit Award winner, graduate with honors. Her plans after high school was to study computer science at the University of Cincinnati. And in 10 years, she sees herself working as a software developer and own many pets. Her best Shark moment was dancing to Baby Shark after swim meets. Aww. And her advice to our Shark swimmers, if you want something you've never had, then you got to do something you've never done. Good job. Thank you, Reese. Last and not least is Margaret Sharpshare, escorted by her dad, John. She was a Shark for 13 years. And her high school accomplishments was water polo, swim team, cheerleading, drill team, thespians, key club, water polo. She had an honorable mention, and she was a Viking and was nominated Viking of the Year by Miss Slate, the advisor. Plans for after high school was to attend Cincinnati State for occupational therapy assisting. And where she sees herself in 10 years is to be an occupational therapy assistant for the elderly. Her best shark moment was cheering on her little shark buddies and watching them compete in their events. And her advice to the sharks is to swim is to enjoy every moment and never take it for granted. You might not enjoy the morning practices, but just wait for Wednesdays when we have shark bites, and Tuesdays and Thursdays when we have meets, and Fridays when you get a special treat for being there all week, and all the memories you make with your friends. Congratulations, Margaret. Okay.
Let's shift you all to the right.
We'll let her have a family picture.
Oh, that's right.
She was busy speaking. You gotta have a mom moment.
Amy's been the best president. She is just so into it. And she has 6 children. So, I mean,
Okay.
Let's shift you all over to the right so we can get the picture with all.
Oh.
We won't keep it together for more than 15 minutes. Okay.
And I just want to add, we do plan on having a season this year, hopefully.
And I may have to come and flip a hot dog or something just to support you.
Well, I don't know if this was on before. All right, so yes, thank you, Sharks, thank you, ladies, for all your years of swimming with us. Truly appreciate it. It is a great, being a parent of a shark, it's great to do. So thank you all. You have no reason to stick around unless you want to, but we won't be offended at all if you make your way out. I think I would like to call on our fire chief at this point, and he's going to introduce one of our newest members of our city employees.
Want me to move this back to the center?
You can.
That's the question. Unless I wreck it. I don't think so. I think Sonnet is happy wherever Sonnet is. So yeah, this is what we've been talking about for quite some time. This is Lieutenant Chris Ellis and our newest member of the Sharonville Fire Department, technically at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, as she is a federal canine, Sonnet. He just finished class and got home Friday evening and has actually already had their first call out and performed in action just this afternoon at a Home Depot. So seems to be very friendly, which is what we were looking for. I'm really excited about not only the work aspect where Sonnet will be able to help us out in the city with our, investigations on the fire side, but also the PR aspect. You can see the entire room focuses around a friendly canine. And I don't think it's any accident. So I'm really excited about that. I believe Lieutenant Ellis has placed something.
Yes.
He is actually going to provide a little bit of a demo.
Our fine marketing. Hey, Lieutenant, do me a favor. That microphone can come right off of there so we can hear you, so everything can pick you up. So can you grab the?
I'm trying to talk loud because I need my hand.
Fair enough. All right, keep the voice up.
One has to hold the leash, one has to hold the food. That makes sense. So the way Sonic eats every day, she has to eat from my hand and she has to smell accelerants in order to eat. So 2 to 3 times a day, I set out things like this, different types of liquids all over the place. It's a hide and seek. And when she says, hey, it's here, she will sit and drool. Because she knows it's on there somewhere. She can smell it. And she will drool. I will feed her, praise her, and she will show me exactly where it's at, and I'll feed her and praise her again. She's trained in people search, scene searches, clothing searches. field searches. We did field searches at Station 88 the other day. She found 3 pieces of carpet in the field in less than 5 minutes with just 1 drop of gasoline. So yeah, they can, in training, we put 1 drop of gasoline on a stick in the middle of a soccer field and they can go out in minutes and fight it. And everything we do with her liquids is 1 drop or less measured in the microliters. And on an average scene, an arsonist is not going to use 1 drop. So they're going to use most likely gallons. So it makes it easy for her. So, you ready to show how this goes? Huh? So her initial command is seek, and then once she finds something, it's show me. Seek. If you see on the show me, she'll put her nose right at the spot, and that's where we would collect the sample evidence. And that's the way she works. She goes around fire scenes and does burn areas, non-burn areas.
Awesome. Thank you, Lieutenant. Welcome Sonnet to the team, and I know he is going to be a great addition to the many services that our fire department is able to provide to not just our communities, but the communities that surround us. So we are very glad to welcome Sonnet to the crew. So thank you all very much for coming out tonight and introducing us all to Sonnet. Thanks for coming, Sonnet. Thank you all.
Thank you.
What's that?
I offered to put accelerant on himself and
Yeah, I would be happy to give that a shot. I'm a little concerned that we have accelerant along the seats up here, but who knew?
Who knew? So I have one last item for tonight. I'm taking most of Jim's stuff for later, but that's just what I'm going to do. So one last item, but it's something that we want to do. We have several folks that have been a part of our city for many years, and they are retiring very shortly. And so we wanted to take a moment tonight for you as council members to have a moment to thank them for their service. And so I'm going to let each of our department heads, with the exception of one of them, to talk a little bit about their folks that are retiring. I'm going to start with Jim Doughton from our convention center.
Good evening, members of council. You can stand up there. So okay, is that better? It's hard to follow a dog act. It's tough. I am here tonight to recognize the very first staff member of the convention center. So 1993, Lisa Hodge was hired. She's here with her husband, Walt, and they're celebrating her retirement after 27 years for the city of Sharonville and the convention center. We had a little celebration earlier this week, so I don't have any prizes or more gifts, but we did have fun. At the convention center, our staff has always considered Lisa, she's our matriarch. She's worked at the convention center longer than any other employee, saw our expansion and stuck with us 27 years. She's an example of a true professional. She's always taken her job and responsibility very seriously, and she's the kind of person who always wants to do the right thing. You couldn't ask for a better person to work on your team. I know Lisa must be having many feelings, happy, maybe a little sad, anxious about starting a new chapter in her life, but I know that whatever she does, she will be a real blessing to anyone who gets the chance to know her. So join me in congratulating Lisa on her retirement.
Thank you for coming out tonight, Lisa, and thank you very much for your years of service to the city. I know this past year has probably been one of the hardest ones you've dealt with the convention center, as long as you've been with us. But you will be missed. Your contributions are greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
I'm gonna need your replacement to know. Thank you all for making Sharonville such a great place to work.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I think Dave's going to get another picture with Jim in it there.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lisa.
Chief Mousa, you're up.
Greg, I won't make you stand too awful long. Good evening, everyone. My voice isn't quite as booming as Jim, so I don't think we'll have the same problem. But we're here tonight, Chief Mackey and I, to extend a very heartfelt congratulations to Lieutenant Greg Klein from the Sharonville Fire Department. Greg joined our ranks in 1988 as a volunteer. You have some cookies, Greg. Don't forget those. It's the best part of it all. He was then full-time in 1996, was given a lieutenant's position in the year 2000, which is well before I started. Greg was one of the first people I met, actually, when I started. I obviously knew John beforehand, but I met Greg and was on Greg's shift there in the beginning. And one of my first interactions was with Jack Smith, who's no longer with us, but he and I made a decision, or Jack primarily, we won't put it on me since he's not here, to not attend a call. And Lieutenant Klein, immediately thereafter on the call, came up to tell us the error of our ways. And that has stuck with me ever since. It's always better to err to go on a call than not go on a call, even if you think you're not needed. All that aside, Greg is a very enthusiastic person. He is heartfelt. He is straightforward. You always know where Greg Klein stands. And in this day and age, that is a lot to say. He is a great person and a great employee. Greg has done a lot through the years, both for the city and for the fire department. Again, I promise not to make you stand there. He had a total knee replacement on Friday, not to give away too much PHI, but that's why he has a cane. He does all kinds of electrical work for the firehouse. He's a drop cord guy. We're going to miss him greatly. Again, you've earned it. You absolutely have earned this retirement, and we appreciate everything you've done up to date. Thanks, Greg.
Now, Greg, Kirk asked me to say a few words since I seem to be the oldest one on the fire department. You're the second oldest one, so. No, back in '88 when Greg started, If you remember back then, Sharonville had 2 fire stations. We had the main station at Cornell and Reading, and we ran out of the small garage next to Gorman Pool for a number of years. So Greg's been around a long time. We've both been around for a long time. Back then, we were a little bit skinnier and had a little bit more hair. But Greg has always been up front. You always knew where you were with Greg. If something didn't go right, Greg would always try to figure out how to make it better. We've been on huge fires, tragic accidents, but Greg has always been a professional. He's always stayed behind, made sure that if a resident needed extra help, that he would go above and beyond to make sure that they were taken care of before he left. And for that, Greg, I thank you. You've always made the department look good. So thank you for your time. Good luck.
Thank you very much for your years. Thank you, Greg, for your years of service to Sharonville. You are what makes the Sharonville Fire Department what it is, you and all the other great folks that work for us. So thank you. And I know once that knee gets back and ready, we're probably going to see you around, because I know there's a lot of folks in this community who use your other services. So I've got a feeling they're just waiting for you to get back healthy. Yeah, already whining about the fact that you weren't available. So thank you again.
I know you started way before 1988. I know you used to clean that hose.
Yep.
That's an explorer.
Been a long time.
Very long time.
Thank you, Greg. Let's see, Mr. Kempe, come on up, sir. And I think Mr. Lucas is going to share some wonderful things about you here. He's zooming from the other room, but we're going to make you stand up there and give a speech when he's done. So, Jim.
Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, Joe, it's been a true pleasure working with Joe through the years. I could say his attention to detail is really top notch. And I think Scott will back me up on this as well, but come budget time, Joe has probably been the most, prepared, the most prepared come budget time as any department I've ever worked with. It's kind of indicative tonight, Joe's leaving soon and he already has legislation in front of you this evening for some of next year's budgetary items. So that will be missed tremendously, just his level of detail, his budget time preparation, and it'll be a huge loss, Joe, when you leave the city.
Well, to say the least, it's truly been an honor working for the city of Sharonville. I appreciate all the support the council and administration have given me over the last 9.5 years, 9.25, something like that.
We can make it 9.5.
You've been saying that for the last year or two, though. But with all the support that you guys have given me and everything, I can't say enough for the members of my department. These guys are dedicated. They work hard. They take their job serious. And I think that's demonstrated through the work they do when we have a snow event, or a really bad snow event. we haven't had a bad one for a few years, but when we have a bad snow event, these guys go into action and our streets are clean and they're ready to drive on, probably faster than any other community in the greater Cincinnati area. And I can't say enough for these guys. They make me shine, and that's, I mean, I truly appreciate that. And I told him that this morning. We actually had a meeting and we discussed some things this morning, but the guys, my workers in my department is what makes this department, not me, it's them. So I want to thank everybody in this room. It's been an honor, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. You will be missed, and thank you for your great service for us over the last, are you sure we can't make it 10 years? It's not too much longer. Thank you very much. I think those are all of our retirees that could make it out this evening. So I know we've got some others that are leaving our city, and we'll share more about them to you via email and let you know that you can, so you make sure that you get the chance to say your goodbye to those folks as well. So with that said, that's all I have for tonight.
Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we'll go into. It doesn't have it on mute. Jim, it's your report time.
Great, thank you. So before we get into the legislation this evening, I'm going to introduce Dave Moore and Adam Weaver from Tetra Tech. We have a small FEMA project going on, and $2.5 million project with our dam and the downtown culvert conversion to a bridge. Dave and Adam are here tonight to give council an update on where we're currently at with that project, as well as the next steps. So I know they have a PowerPoint presentation, so I believe if they're not already, they need to be made co-hosts.
Thanks, Jim. I just tried to share my screen and it didn't allow me to, so I'll try it again.
Hang on, he's got to do it over at the other station. He's working on. Try it now, please.
Perfect. Yes, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, that went smoother than anticipated based on all the previous presentations. So thanks to Jim. I am David Moore with Tetra Tech. With me tonight, we have Adam Weaver. We're just going to go give you an update on the status of the project. So we're performing the engineering services and flood mitigation assistance grant services for the city of Sharonville. This is the existing culverts on the left, and the storm sewer right, and the outlet, and then the dam is in the right here, the title. A little bit about Tetra Tech. We are the #4 firm in the US by size engineering firm. These are just some of our numbers. #1 in dams and reservoirs, which is of note on this project. Just to give you a little bit, we're publicly traded. We have over 20,000 associates that work with us across 250 offices in the US. Adam and I both work in the Columbus, Ohio /Gahanna office here in Ohio. Just go over the team. This is who we have working on the project. You can see we have subs. We'll go into that a little bit later, subconsultants. But I myself am the project manager. Adam's the design lead. We have people performing quality control. This is just to give you an idea of the scope and breadth of the project and the staffing it takes to accomplish it. I myself, I'm a vice president with Tetra Tech. I'm responsible for flood risk management practice across the country. I have over 25 years managing, designing dams, culverts, and that type of water resource infrastructure. And so I also have a fair amount of FEMA funding, grant experience working on those. And we have Holly Miller assisting us. She's not presenting tonight, but she is our FEMA grant expert. And she's been coordinating with the city and with the OEMA along with us as the project manager and the design lead. Adam Weaver, he's online as well. He has a little over 17 years of experience. He's worked with me over 10 of those years. He's done quite a few dam safety projects here in Ohio and other water resource projects here in Ohio. He's a registered engineer. You can see his credentials are pretty outstanding. Again, we provided this presentation PDF form, so if you want, you can look through and see some of these details if I've missed them. So I guess I'll hand it off to Adam. He can talk a little bit about the subconsultants and the project.
Thanks, Dave. Coming off mute, just want to make sure that you can hear me okay.
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Yep, so this is a large project. It's multifaceted, and we can't do this project alone as Tetra Tech. So we do have a team of subconsultants that we have hired. Four subconsultants are assisting us on this project. Stone Environmental, woman-owned Columbus-based company that we do a lot of work with. They're providing environmental permitting support. Brand Consulting is another woman-owned business here that we use for the majority of our projects on more permitting aspects related to cultural and historical aspects of projects. And then the last two on here, Terracon Consultants, they are geotechnical companies. They helped us with the subsurface exploration. That means that we did geotechnical borings to sample the ground in the soil in the vicinity of the projects. And then Kleinger's Surveying, they're the kind of the local experts in the surveying to provide all the base mapping that we utilize to develop our construction plans and our design. So the first aspect, just want to give it a broad overview of this project. I'm not sure how much of this project has been presented to council previously, but just to give you an update from the 2017 work that was part of the grant and that Stantec developed. So the first feature that I'm presenting is the Sharonville Detention Dam. This facility is a Class 1 high hazard dam, and that means there is a set of regulations, requirements, and laws that the state of Ohio regulates for this structure. There's certain criteria that must be met. As it stands, the Sharonville Detention Dam is able to meet all the criteria as it currently stands. The purpose of this project that we're working on with the city of Sharonville is to reduce flooding. So what we're going to do at the Sharonville Detention Dam is modify this auxiliary spillway. So the dam was built back in the 1960s originally. Then in the early 1990s, this additional concrete spillway was constructed to help pass design flows. So what we're going to do is essentially raise up the lip or the weir where the water passes over in order to hold back the water for a longer period of time and let it out slightly more gradually than the existing configuration. So to accomplish that new performance, we have designed a new spillway system. It's called a labyrinth weir. So I have kind of some 3D renderings of what that labyrinth spillway looks like. So what we're going to need to do is demolish the flat slab of the existing spillway and rebuild that to withstand the forces and the weight of this new spillway. And what a labyrinth does, it's basically like a really long weir that's compressed into a shorter channel width, and you can see this zigzag pattern. So what this design accomplishes is we're going to store the 100-year back, hold it longer, and then the unique performance of a labyrinth will allow that 100-year to come out a little bit slower than it did before. At the same time, there is still the criteria from the state of Ohio that needs to be met. So it's a little bit of a balance how big we make this new spillway in order to meet the overall design storm, which is a very large event. But you know, we're focused on the 100-year event to hold back those flood flows. So that's the update on the dam. The second portion of this project, so these are connected hydraulically on a tributary to Sharon Creek. So this is where the project is gaining the most benefit. So at the Main Street and US 42 intersection, there are twin culverts where the channel is closed and goes into these two culverts. They're approximately 5 feet by 12 feet or 5 feet by 10 feet. And these culverts are aging. They were built back in the 1970s. They are deteriorating. ODOT, I think ODOT owns or maintains these culverts, and they have, recently reported, deterioration that's progressing. So these culverts, they're in need of replacement or significant repairs. So it's kind of a double positive that we're actually taking these culverts offline, getting rid of them, and we're opening up this channel. So as in present day, these existing culverts create a restriction, and under the 100-year storm event that we're talking about, this restriction backs up into downtown Sharonville. So we're going at this from two directions. We're going to try to slow down what's coming through the detention dam, and what does go through the tributary, we're going to open up and let it pass so that it's not causing the flooding. So we have these two separate design sites. We have them connected within an overall hydraulic model that we're using to estimate the existing and the proposed conditions of these flood scenarios. So the slide that's being presented at this time, the green area is an estimation of the current area that would be flooded during a 100-year flood event. So, the purpose of this project is to reduce that area. So these other two blue colors are a comparison of the modeling that Stantec did conceptually. And then the darker blue area is the results that Tetra Tech has achieved after we've collected a more refined survey. We've done much more rigorous calculations at the detention dam. We've gone through a true preliminary design of the new Main Street Bridge. We've done proper stream design to make sure that the channel slopes are stable, and all those things we've worked through. We've very closely replicated the results from 2017 within just 1/10 of a foot or so. So we're really excited with the results that we've been able to achieve with our design. And overall, we are providing essentially the same benefit that Stantec determined during their grant formulation and their concept design process. So, we're excited that this project can move forward as planned. And Dave, I think Dave, you're next. We'll kind of go over where we're at in the schedule. I've kind of described what we've completed so far, and then Dave will talk about what's coming up next for the project and within the schedule.
All right, thanks, Adam. So we got the notice to proceed on this project July 13 of this year. Phase 1 is now complete. The elements that were covered under that were project management consulting services, the studies and investigations, and that's the survey and the field work that a lot of our subconsultants performed, as well as our site investigations. Adam went over the preliminary design. We submitted the design package last week on the preliminary design. That included a preliminary construction estimate. This is included as well grant management, coordination, filling out quarterly forms. This is a very complicated grant, very multifaceted, lots of nuances, lots of line items. So it's taken quite a bit of grant management effort. So the phase 1, the update to the benefit cost analysis is not needed because we essentially have the same benefit, same result as the grant application, which saves a little bit of money that we would otherwise have to expend. So the next phase, which is phase 2, which we're starting, we plan to start upon notice to proceed. The first step of that is this conditional letter of map revision, and that's a FEMA term. So the existing floodplain map looks similar to this green outline that's the 100-year. So we are going to submit the hydraulic models and the revised mapping that you see here, along with a lot of other information to FEMA to request that the floodplain be changed to the smaller area, the dark blue / light blue area here. And the reason it's conditional is because they can't approve it and affect flood insurance rates until something's actually constructed. But the reason we do a conditional letter instead of just wait till the end is it'll identify any deal killers that they may find or any points of contention. It allows us to work through that with FEMA and to come to an agreement so that it doesn't affect construction schedule, construction budget, or worst case you build something and it doesn't have the approval of FEMA. So that's why we do a conditional letter up front while we're working on the final design. So then the next phase will include more project management and consulting services. It'll include the final design, taking the bridge to final design and appurtenances and the dam as well. It'll continue grant management. This phase will include permitting services for environmental permits, roadway permits, etc. Once the final design is completed, we will support the city with the bidding, and then we'll support construction and closeout services, and that includes the as-builts. Once we have construction as-builts, we will repackage the FEMA letter of map revision. And at this point, it's an official letter of map revision. And once FEMA reviews it and approves it, insurance rates can change and people can be removed from the floodplain. So that's a key point. And we're projecting to end March 22nd, 2022. But this is the project schedule. You can see we're on track. The red box is a phase 1, which we have wrapped up. So I'm going to say that we're ahead of schedule, Jim, by a few days. So we're a little ahead. We plan to continue to execute and compress this if we can to give us more room during construction, because rainfall, working in a stream environment, all the reasons we want as much time as possible on that end, and still meet the grant requirements. So we're going to do our best to compress phase 2, but we're on schedule, on track, which is good. I always like these updates to council when you can report that. The construction cost comparison, we have a multi-line item comparison, but the takeaway is Our estimated construction costs at this preliminary stage, which is the 30% design, are the same as the FEMA grant construction costs. Some are lower, some are higher. We have requested to move around money within the grant structure with OEMA and FEMA so that we can cover the cost with the grant and it doesn't have to come from the city or ODOT. It would come from the FEMA cost share. So there's just some details we're working through to make sure that, you know, we can move things around. And we haven't gotten the final approval on that. But again, the floodplain, the FMA grant, which is the FEMA grant, it's multifaceted. It includes a lot of elements. And it's a little bit different to manage to make sure we don't do anything to lose the money. We need to be very careful that everything falls under certain categories that were presented in the grant and we meet the same criteria. So it's working within that frameworks, proving to be, it's difficult, but it's doable. As you can see, we're on schedule. So, you know, it's taking a little bit because the benefit cost ratio is very close to 1, which means the benefits are almost equal to the cost. So it's very cost sensitive. So we have to be very careful with the costs, not just from the grant, but also from the BC, because if that ratio falls below 1, then the federal grant money is not there. So that's why we were very happy to get the same benefits that they got before and the same cost. And this is just a comparison of the consultant fee. There's some differences from the grant to the existing contract. And the numbers on the right are the existing contract. As you can see, there's a couple items that were left out of the grant, and that's the bidding, construction, and closeout effort, and some reimbursable expenses, which are printing, the plan sets, printing the documents, just those reimbursable expenses, travel costs, things of that nature. And also the grant was 2017, and I don't believe they adjusted to 2021 rate, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but you know, 3 years is about a 9% difference as well. So we're in constant contact with Jim and Scott about this, and they ask very good questions, and it makes us think and it makes us pay attention. So we appreciate it. We're just very cognizant of anything that changes, we need to bring to their attention immediately so we can work through it. I guess with that, I could turn it back to Jim or over to council and the mayor for questions.
Are there any questions from council? You did a fabulous job, Mr. Cook.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see it, but it looked like the end date of the construction was going to be early 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, we're shooting for March 22nd, 2022. That's the grant end date. So the end of construction itself, if you look at this line item 3C, we're shooting for actually December. And then there's some project closeout that happens and the LOMAR submittal. So construction could be done here. It's the as-builting and the LOMAR final approval and closeout that's what takes us to March. And that very specific date is the grant end date if it's extended, correct, Jim?
Yes, and we did receive word from OEMA that we did get our 1-year extension to that date.
Anyone else with questions?
And again, we'll do our best to compress that phase 2. So
Residents that live in the area, I will let you speak now if you would like. So if you have questions or anything you want to ask, I know you were invited here this evening for this purpose. Nobody? You're just happy, aren't you, Mr. Boone? I can see you're happy. I can see you're happy, okay? Thank you guys so much for the presentation. We do appreciate it.
absolutely. Let us know if you have any questions. We're around. Our contact information's in a PowerPoint.
Perfect, thank you. It looks like there's no questions right now. You're just making a lot of residents happy.
That's good. We like that.
All right, I guess I'll move on with the rest of my report then.
Mr. Lucas, we have a suggestion from the mayor that maybe we go into our executive session now before we talk about all the legislation.
Right.
So we don't take up any more of Mr. Barbier's time. So right now, I'm going to, yeah. Did anyone else want to address council before we do this? And then we're going to get into our legislation. Come on up and give us your name.
Do I take this off? I guess
You're
you can
fine.
hear me. All right. My name is Victor Ilo, the owner of Code 51. And I'm here today with Mel Green. He's the manager. So we wanted to say something about that, the new ordinance. Do we go ahead now or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, we want to, say good evening to the council. This is really our first time, being here. So I really enjoyed it. So maybe we should come more often. We got a certified mail in the mail about the new ordinance. So we wanted to, come up here this evening and show our support. Security is really key to what we do. We read through it, so we have just a couple of acts to ask the council. One of them is really, we quite agree in everything the security measures and the new ordinance is saying. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about is they only gave us about half an hour to clear our patrons at the end of the night. And we do know for any event that that happens at the end of the night, people hang around, they want to talk to their friends. Our main objective is to really get them out of the venue, which sometimes typically takes about 15 minutes to do. The next thing is to get them out of the neighborhood. So our ask is really, if we can extend that, instead of setting us up to fail, is to see if we can extend that to at least an hour, to get them out from the area. We do provide enough security, even more than what the new ordinance is saying. So security is really the key here. The other that we want to talk about is really the cleaning. Sometimes, it gets dark at night. We typically do clean at night too. But what we found is that in the daylight, early hours, like 7 o'clock, we have our cleaning crews, so the area is really clean. We do our best to clean at night, but we just want to say that sometimes, we, extend it during the day to make sure that we pick up everything. So that's really the only two things that I have. Mel, do you have something?
I think I have one more question as far as with the security outside. I know in the future, you guys haven't been allowing the officers to do work detail. So with the new application of the rule, are you guys allowing Sharonville to do work detail? Because I noticed in some of the language is saying that if we have a problem, that the chief can, I think on one of the rules is saying that the chief can come out if we have one incident. The chief would say, if he says we need 2 people outside, the chief may review it and say we need more. So is that allowing the chief to allow Sharonville to come in and do a paid detail on nights that we may have a bigger event? Because I know before in the past, you said you guys weren't allowed to do it. So is that something new that you guys may allow that the cops to do work detail?
Is the chief on? Hold on just a moment. He was online.
Because I think that would help us as well.
The chief's on. The chief's on.
Can you let Chief Vanover in, please? Thank you. Okay, and Chief Vanover, if you could please unmute your mic. They have a question about detail. I don't know if you were able to hear.
I heard it. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have the proposed ordinance right in front of me, but I am not opposed. I do not believe to working off-duty details outside of the parking lot. Inside of the business would be another concern, but I certainly heard the question, and it's something that I am open to a discussion on anyway.
And that depends too on if our officers want to pick up that detail
Right.
too. I used to work at Princeton, so I know about proms.
Right, right.
So, it just depends on who picks up the details or if they want to, because that's strictly on their own time and
Okay,
it can't factor into their shifts here. So that makes a difference.
right. And I don't have the ordinance in front of me as well. I brought the wrong bag. But also one of them was with the promoter permit. As far as the promoters, what does it consist of being a promoter? Someone that rents out the venue, someone that works up under Code 51. So just trying to get some more clarity on some of the rules within the ordinance. So I don't know if we kind of jumped the gun by asking now, or wait till you guys talk about it, or it's already going to be implemented.
We've already talked about it. And when we get into our legislative portion,
Okay.
this is one that is going to get a second and third reading and go into effect if passed this evening.
Okay.
So this becomes our law this evening.
Okay.
So now's the time to get your questions asked. I don't, Mr. Piemeier, do you have any? Yeah, that's what I think.
One of the problems, if we start giving you answers outside of the ordinance, then we've changed the ordinance. So we define everything that we need to define in the
Inside.
ordinance, and it would be improper for me to say, well, in my opinion, this is what it means. I mean, and in doing this, one of these things, I'm very glad to plagiarize as a law director. We find other people that have ordinances like this that work, and they've been found to be legal. And, so that's what we do. And we design, because this is new for us, we try to find other cities that have had similar laws that have passed, they've checked in the courts. So those definitions we use, I didn't just make up.
Right.
They've been passed Ohio law. So we'll just stick with the language.
Yeah.
We were at this because we just received it, and of course, you guys already implemented the law.
No, we're implementing it tonight.
Right, implemented tonight, but it's obviously you guys aren't going to change what you have. Like I said, we didn't even have a chance to even have our lawyers even look over it. I guess we're going to have to stick with it regardless of our questions, right?
I can tell you this is what we came up with as a body of elected officials that represent citizens in our community.
Okay.
And this is the best that we could do to come up with what we felt was fair and equitable to everyone. Your neighbors, our residents in our city, everyone, we're trying to be equitable and fair. And so that's why this is there. That's actually why you received a certified letter.
Right.
We could have passed this and not even told you about it.
And I get
you
that,
would have never known.
Right.
Until you broke the law.
You're talking about neighbors and stuff. I would thought that we could have been a part of that with some of the rules or maybe some of the regulations, as you're saying, that some of the neighbors, and you talk to neighbors in the community.
Our neighbors. I'm talking about people that live here, not people that work here, and people that live here. That's who we represent.
Right.
That's who we're elected by as a body here. And our law committee took this up, and this is working together as a council. This is the document that we came up with, how we want to see things handled in our city.
Right.
With different venues and things like that. You're not the only venue that was invited. We invited multiple venues to come. You just happen to be the only ones that came tonight to talk to us.
So are we the only nightclub in Sharonville?
No.
Okay.
No, we have other bars, and that's what this addresses.
But that's why I said, is there a difference between the bars and nightclubs? Because the ordinance just say nightclubs, it doesn't say anything about bars. So that's why I was just wondering, is there other nightclubs?
Well, there are other venues that have music and things like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, you weren't the only ones invited, though. I can tell you we had 3 other phone calls, and we talked to them over the phone.
Right.
And were able to answer their questions, so they didn't show up tonight.
Okay. All right.
So, but at least you will consider the first and second request that I made, the half an hour to an hour. Is that something
That would be up to council tonight.
Okay.
That would have to be coming from one of them to say, I want to make an amendment.
Okay.
I don't think that that's going to happen. I think we feel like a half an hour, they felt like was plenty to get people in and out. Our convention staff does it. We do own the convention center.
Right.
And our convention staff does a pretty good job of when the meeting's over and y'all need to leave and go home and that kind of a thing and close it down and try to patrol and look at the parking lot and get people out of there and things like that. So, we have that expectation of 30 minutes should be great for you to do that. I understand you're saying you clean the lot in the morning.
Yeah.
And things like that. It probably would behoove you to do that at night to your neighbors over there. Just a suggestion.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Thanks, Council.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt. How are you this evening?
I'm just fine. How are you all?
We're
The reason I
great.
came was to hear what the FEMA thing was about because it avoids, the creek runs right past our property there.
Yes.
And so I've got some answers on that. The other thing is, several weeks ago or a month ago, we're pulling into my driveway, my parking lot, behind the funeral home, behind the Athenian restaurant, Burns Flowers, and there's a Dora sign on the telephone pole there. And I'm wondering why that area is considered part of Dora, and who is responsible for anything that happens in those properties if something should happen, like an accident or something.
Your brother was actually here the night we talked about it and.
He was?
Yes, he was.
He said he wasn't going to be here.
No, not tonight. A couple weeks ago he was here, but that's fine. That was put there because there is a Dora section. It is to actually help and support Athenian's restaurant as part of the Dora area. They could be benefiting from it because you can walk in there. They don't have to pay for a liquor license, but I can take my beer in there and get one of their wonderful double deckers. And that's why they put the Dora sign up down there.
Okay.
So, I mean, really, that is true. Why they put the Dora sign. That's the ending point too of the Dora.
They close at 4 o'clock.
Now they weren't, but yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway.
And so that is why.
And in my home property, it just butts to that too, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If I walk into your parking lot or sit on the porch of the funeral home with a beer, you can call the police.
You can call the police and have them removed.
Get out of there. So it doesn't give, in the public area and in the businesses that participate, give people a right to have alcohol there, but they can't come into people's yards and they can't come into businesses that aren't serving like restaurant type of thing. So it really doesn't change anything, and that's one thing Tim's going to be happy with. You can get them to eat photo if they're on your property.
All right. Well, that's the problem right now with that.
Well, it won't be until spring, but you please let us know if it is a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Send them to the mayor's house if they're down there.
Well, there you go. All right. Can I entertain a motion? Can I entertain a motion, please, to go into executive session? And let me find my paperwork here. In pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 12122G And we're going to go to section 1 regarding employment and also section 2 regarding the purchase of public property for public purposes. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mrs. Knight. I need to do roll call. Hang on here. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Jumped a line. Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And we will be going into executive session. There will be legislation to come after this executive session. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put us on pause. And okay. Okay, no, that's fine. Nope, that's fine. All
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
There it goes. Mr. Lucas, you can go ahead with your report.
Thank you. Just moving on to the legislation. We have one piece of unfinished business, 2020-56E, dealing with nightclubs. I have a short PowerPoint presentation for those who may be watching online and the public in general. Let me try sharing my screen. I'm assuming everybody can see that. So
Yes, I can.
great. So why should council consider this ordinance tonight? Because well-managed nightlife activities are important to a successful city as long as they operate in a safe and inviting manner with minimal noise, litter, traffic, and other negative impacts. Administration believes that regulations addressing the above should be enacted for current and future nightclubs. So what's the definition of a nightclub? We took the definition from the Ohio Revised Code Liquor Control Law. Basically a four-pronged test. One, it's a for-profit entity. Two, where food is served. Three, amusement and or entertainment of some nature is provided. And four, for some consideration, such as a cover charge or an increase to food and or drink prices. So if it's an entity that does not have a cover charge, for instance, or does not increase the price of food and beverages when they have entertainment, this does not apply to them. The nightclub promoter definition is pretty self-explanatory, but because it was asked earlier in the evening, I'll just read it. It's any individual, partnership, corporation, or other entity or agent promoting any venue, performing artists, DJ, advertising services, or similar activities by contracting with a nightclub not owned and operated by the promoter. So as was mentioned before, we did send out a certified mailing along with a letter, a 2-page summary, and the proposed ordinance to the following 9 entities, which may or may not be impacted by the legislation. We don't necessarily know their business model, right? So we sent it to these 9 entities and received calls regarding the ordinance from 3 of them. We did get all the certified mailings back, however. So for a nightclub to comply, they need to submit for a permit. Current nightclubs have 2 months to do so. Providing a written security plan with at least 1 security officer per 50 patrons inside the facility and at the door, and a minimum of 2 security officers patrolling the parking lot whenever open. Additional security can be mandated by the city depending on the number and type of incidents that occur. The city will be able to mandate additional security enhancements such as metal detectors and cameras if incidents involving the use or threatened use of a deadly weapon or a death or catastrophic injury occurs. Same is the case for where a city employee is assaulted. The bottom line, we need for visitors to our city and for our employees to be safe. Depending on what's happening at the time, the police and fire departments can temporarily suspend permits, and if that occurs, the facility must immediately close. If it's determined that the situation has been addressed, the departments may allow a reopening. Nightclubs will also be able to file a written appeal to City Council for a public hearing, or not necessarily a public hearing, but a hearing regarding the issue within 30 days. And then other appeals also go to council for permit denials, suspensions, or other matters. This is the penalty section. We're staying positive, and hopefully there's never any violations, so we don't have to implement any of this. Mark did a good job, and law committee as well. with this section. And as you can see with the last bullet point, depending on previous incidents, the next higher level of misdemeanor can be applied. So again, just short and sweet. Are there any questions?
Did anyone have questions? Sir, did you have more questions after seeing this presentation? Okay. No questions, Jim.
Okay, moving on to the next 1, 2, 5 pieces of legislation are all budget related. Scott McKeon will address all of those.
Good evening. It's that most wonderful time of the year when we get to close one budget and start on another. So we have a handful of pieces of legislation, as Jim mentioned. Ordinance 2020-57E, kind of following up on our discussion from Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago. This is appropriating $700,000. It's requesting that we put that on a PO to encumber those funds. And this will be used in rolling forward as we go into next year to aid small businesses, nonprofits, and any others that may be experiencing financial hardships. If you notice when going through the packet in section 2, it kind of lays out we will come back to council to request programs or awards, an individual award or a program for us to award funds under this kind of set aside. There is I sent an email out late this afternoon related to ordinance 2020-58E. This is our kind of our wrap up, our last amendment to the 2020 budget. There ended up being a lot more on this than I kind of anticipated. So I will go through this. Section 1 is just sort of the kind of cleanup, a handful of things that we needed to some additional appropriations or to actually reduce some appropriations for some compliance. Section 2 is the set asides. We have the general fund, just like we talked about in the budget work session. Anything over $7.8 million, we will set aside 50-50 into our debt fund to pay down the debt on the new police station, or to our capital fund. There's kind of a series of 3 set-asides there to be made out of the fire fund, very similar to what we've done the previous few years. $100,000 to the separation benefits fund, $250,000 to the firehouse capital fund for expenditures on their facilities, likely renovations and other big things like roofs coming up in the future. And then $500,000 to the 430 capital equipment fund. Section 3, this kind of cleaned up a compliance concern. The convention center, with everything going on this year, we did fall short of our revenue budget. And as we lowered what our estimated resources were, the fund balance we had on hand at the beginning, plus the receipts we had, we needed to lower appropriations to stay in budgetary compliance. The one easy way to do that was kind of to memorialize that we did not make the transfer to the debt fund that we normally do. So section 3 cancels that appropriation and unappropriates those dollars. Section 4, this approves, authorizes the return of the advance of the funds that we've collected in from the Hyatt Place for the Convention Center Hotel Debt Fund. The $82,000 is sort of what was generated after we gave the vacation of that loan for two quarters during the year. So we also we had appropriated 190 to come back. That's normally what would be expected. So we're reducing appropriations by $107,000. The rest of those paragraphs there in section 4 are really just to kind of memorialize the history of legislation there. In case looking back at this, there's a lot of pieces that have gone on over the years. Section 5 This authorizes the return of the advance that we made to the capital improvement grant fund for Kemper Path. It explains that we reallocated those expenses to our 401 capital fund, and this is going to return those funds to the general fund, and that will be zeroed out. Section 6 is the new piece. This is what was not in your packet over the weekends. Hamilton County notified us late yesterday the possibility or the likelihood that they would be awarding us an additional $103,420 of CARES Act funds. This is from their CARES Act allocation they received directly from the federal government. They have about $12 million they're trying to allocate to local governments if they don't get approval to extend when this is spent. So this money has to be expended by December 30th. We would, the only practical way to do that would be to allocate that to safety salaries. We would, this section gears us up and lets us put those dollars to use. So we'd be authorized, Jim would be authorized to sign any amendments to that Hamilton County agreement and put those dollars to work. They will be deciding this at their December 17th meeting. So rather than hold off on this and have the likelihood that we would need to reconvene kind of via Zoom to do additional legislation before the year was up, we put this in here. If we do not get the allocation, these appropriations will simply lapse. This will need to be approved for late delivery. That was it for ordinance 58E. Any questions about that? There was a lot of pieces there. Yes, and that's why we would be allocating it to our safety salaries that we've already expended. That's the only practical manner to use that up. 59E, we talked about this one quite a bit in the law committee. It kind of rambles on. In a nutshell, all this is doing is kind of scheduling out all of the CARES Act expenses that we made, at least as of the time that this was drafted last week. And it memorializes what those were, it acknowledges what those requirements were, and we understand and feel that we met those. Nothing more, nothing less. This was kind of a recommendation of Ohio Office of Management and Budget in some of their CARES Act guidance. The big piece of legislation, although we can go through it fairly quickly, is 2020-60E. This is the 2021 budget. At your table this evening was what looks like page 1 and 2 of your budget book. The last page of that is as promised. The $51 million, that number at the top, that was the total of all expenditures from your budget book on page 1 and 2 that we went over back in November. I schedule out the couple handfuls of items here that we've added or taken out of the budget, mostly added. The big ticket items here are the OPWC and MRF portions of the Houck Road project. I did add the 401 there, the $370,000. We added the money to do the design work for the 42 path. So that is in this budget that we're approving tonight. Along with, as we discussed at the budget work session, the $25,000 for 4th of July fireworks. The hotel liaison as well. And we explained, as we discussed, how we made that possible kind of at a net zero. Also, the very bottom item there, the $299,000, we are rolling over the unappropriated portion of the police station construction. They still need to relocate, finish some things up. There is going to be a few, lingering change orders that'll come through. So they need a fair portion, if not all of this funds, to finalize that project. And the bottom number there, $53,361,000. That actually ties to the ordinance that you have. Ordinance 2020-61E. This is our annual transfer of funds. It only has the 4 general fund transfers, and these were kind of as in your budget book back in November. Nothing changed with these. Any questions on any of those items?
Any questions? Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
The next item is pertaining to our CDBG project at Gower Park. If Michael's still on, he could address that. Otherwise, I can.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, everybody.
Michael got money.
Hey, so this is the CDBG grant from 2017 that was applied for back when Sue Cates was our director. We were slated to start the project in 2020, and we did go out to bid originally in October. The bids came back, and unfortunately, we were not able to accept them. We did rebid the project, and we did receive a good bid from Logan Creek LLC. So tonight, our ordinance is asking to move into a contract through the Safety Service Director to get this project started. We have until May 30th of 2021 to complete it. And as you all are aware, this is for the CDBG grant of the inclusive playground equipment that we'll be installing there at Gower Park. A few pieces there will go in the spring, we're hoping, and will be really nice to add to the park. That's all I got.
Yeah, share your other good news, Michael.
Yeah, we learned today from George Glover that we will be receiving the full $150,000 from the state capital funding. I think Hamilton County was actually a recipient of a very large number of projects for that money. So we're really excited for that. And that'll be, an early Christmas present, obviously, for the city and recreation department, and mainly the community, because that'll go a long way to get that project going. It'll be for the demolition of the schoolhouse as well as Gorman Pool. So that is really exciting, and it continues to make good on the promise that we told you guys of finding additional funding for that project. So yeah, we're super excited about it, and yeah, ready to get rolling.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item, ordinance 2020-65 is just an item pertaining to our curb and sidewalk program and street preventative maintenance program that we talked about at budget time. And then the last item, ordinance 2020-72E, deals with Mr. Glover and considering our partnership with him at Focus Capital Solutions. As you know, we have 2 agreements with George. One is through the city at $1,875, and the other one is at the convention center, typically $1,875 as well per month. I reached out to George and mentioned the issues that the convention center is having because of COVID and whether there was any flexibility in that rate. And George reduced that fee from $1,875 to $1,375 a month. So again, showing just a partner that he is with us. He's very instrumental with Jim Doughton, with state capital dollars, with keeping us informed from a tax perspective on what's going on at the State House and others as well. So hopefully council sees the benefit and continues that partnership. With that, that's all I have this evening.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lucas? Seeing none, we're going to move on. I am going to forego my council time, and I am going to go ahead and bring up Convention Center Director, Mr. Doughton, because you've endured us long enough. And we appreciate your patience.
No problem at all. I don't want to hurt anybody's ears. Good evening. So I guess it would be an understatement to say that 2020 was a challenging and tough year for the convention center. But it's interesting, as I was looking back on the year, we started out with a bang. Our first quarter was, we were on pace for another record year. That was good. Good that we had that to help us along the year as things changed. Yeah, while I'd like to be able to report, things continued that way. As we know, back in March, we were hit with the COVID pandemic and the governor's order to close the business down through June. This really altered how we had to do business for the duration of the year. Even when we reopened, I guess in June, as you know, there were new guidelines set in place that minimized our attendance and capacity and the type of events that we were allowed to host. So because of those challenges, and since our business model obviously is to host large public mass gatherings, we had to morph and kind of change our strategic plans, our business plan, our sales and marketing plans to create some new strategies on what we could do to minimize our revenue loss and to maximize any remaining revenue opportunities. So from June through December, we created several new events, and some of you attended to those, I think. I remember seeing a few. We did a welcome back incentive that offered groups complimentary rental of the convention center if they were hosting a convention or event that utilized 200 hotel rooms. So we partnered with the CVB and really tried to use that to incentivize and attract any group that was meeting in the area. We also did a welcome back incentive in June that offered banquet groups of greater than 100 complimentary rental as well. And we advertised those in the Cincinnati Magazine, as well as at the time we were doing some radio ad. We also did an evening on the patio back in September where we had some live entertainment, restaurant menu, cocktails. It was probably the most successful of the different events that we ran, and we plan on that coming back in the spring once the weather warms up. We got a lot of good response from that event. So we tried our big Sunday brunch. I thought it had a lot of opportunity.
I loved it.
A lot of food. But again, I think, with the environment, especially inside versus an outside event, we didn't get the kind of traction that we wanted. But it's certainly something I think when things do get back to somewhat normal, that has a lot of potential, we think, the big Sunday brunch. And then finally, some of you might have tried the Let Us Make Thanksgiving for You. I know the mayor did. And that was our Spectra Food and Beverage partners that created your Thanksgiving dinner. I think, Vicki, you also.
No, we didn't. We ended up we were such a small group. It would have been way too much food.
But we heard good responses for that. And it was really, of these events, in no way generated the revenue levels of our normal events. But what they really did is they provided an opportunity for our employees and the public and our customers to get together and interact in some way so that we were still continuing that relationship even during this difficult time. So there was a lot of positivity, I think, to what we offered, even though you might say that it, we didn't generate the kind of revenue we historically do. I think we generated a lot of good vibes. Additionally, we took a hard look at our operating expenses. We reduced those expenses by $200,000. We also participated, our staff did, in the Ohio Shared Work Program, which allowed everybody to stay on at the convention center through this difficult time at a little bit of a reduced hours. But that program also saved us some additional dollars. Our staff really kind of rose to the occasion. Our setup team took on all the cleaning and sanitizing at the rec center, at the administrative building, tax office, did I say rec center? And the police department. And this not only offered some cost savings, but again, it really allowed our staff to continue to work, which was really important. And our event management staff spent a month over in the Community Development Department doing some on-site investigations for property maintenance, which was an education for them and a help for community development. So we were creative to do what we could to help. On another note, I know that we've talked about hotel transient occupancy tax, the city's tax, not just the county's tax. And while it is true that we have suffered, a little reduction in what we normally get. Normally, we're about 1.2 million. That's kind of been our average the last few years. We'll end about $750,000, which is about a 63% of our normal average, or at least the last couple of years. But we produced, or the city's hotel committee really produced at an exceedingly higher level than what's been happening in the rest of the county. When you look at that 63% versus what has been happening, say downtown, where they've been performing at less than 30%, in the 20s, which is really tough. Really a testament to our hotel strength and the diversity that they offer, that they're able to still attract customers and bring in that tax for us. So for next year, 2021, I'm sure everybody heard the news, the vaccine's out. Yesterday they started the distribution to, the level 1. And we're excited about that. We're optimistic that that will slowly build confidence to our customers to begin returning. We don't expect 2021 to be a return to normal business level, but we do expect by the end of the year that things will return for people booking larger events for 2022. And that would be fantastic news. So it's really important that this vaccine gets out and people feel confident about going out later in the year.
Good.
I was trying to be brief. I hope I was.
You're fine. You are fine.
Any
Always
questions?
love to hear from you. Does anyone have questions? Your staff is doing an amazing job under all these circumstances. They truly are.
Thank you.
And let's hope that the Delta Hotel even increases the hotel tax for you now that they're open finally, and that'll just bring better things for you. So
great. Thank you all.
Thanks. Okay, auditors report, Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, everybody. We are 91.67% through the year, and we've only spent 74% in our general fund. We obviously are minding the way that we have spent our budgetary dollars. Nothing like stating the obvious, but all of our dollars that we've spent in 2020 have been encumbered appropriately and have been legislatively approved. Those are two facts that are important yet obvious, so let's not diminish those two facts. That's my report.
Great. Are there any questions from anyone? Seeing none, we'll move to our treasurer, Mr. Irie.
Good evening. My November tax report is pretty much sounding like all the other tax reports this year. The motel tax is down 32.24%, and year-to-date collections are down only 3.59%. I will say that the month of November actually for collections bettered the collections in November of 2019 by a significant amount. And actually, I believe it was the best November that we've had on record. So that's a very positive sign at the end of the year here, and hopefully a sign of positive things to come in the near future. So that's my report.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll go to our law director, Mr. Pete Meyer.
No report.
Oh, but we still love hearing from you. All right, I do not see any residents here. Are any of the residents on the computer wanting to speak? Guessing not. All right, we will move on then. And council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
No report. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Community Services, Mr. Lippert.
Thanks. We're going to meet January 6th at 4 o'clock in the conference room. Thank you.
Perfect. Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. I'm going to read the report. We met on December 3rd. The first item we discussed was additional CARES Act funding. Once again, we reviewed, we had a limited time to get that funding out on the first round. We had about 700,000 left over. And originally, we did not include nonprofits at the time. We didn't think they were allowed. However, it turned out they were eligible, so we decided to include them in the second round of funding. Administration will work on the criteria for the second round and additional ways to notify more small businesses. And then we also discussed the anchor properties TIF. And that's my report.
Okay. And did you want to talk about your other committee?
Oh.
There really isn't a.
Yeah. So we originally had stated we were going to meet in January. We're going to go ahead and give administration more time. We're going to push that back till sometime in February. So I'm going to get with everyone and we'll select a date and time.
Perfect.
Thank
you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, I am going to honor Santa Claus and his elves this year because they have to wear these dumb masks. And I know he might have a little trouble getting down the chimney. So I thought I'd honor
Okay.
him in our defense.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, January 5th, 4 p.m. here in council chambers.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to accept late delivery of two ordinances, ordinance 2021-58E and 2020-71E. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion on this late delivery? Seeing none, all those in favor, yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no, and that motion does carry. Now, is there a motion for rule suspensions? First and only reading with immediate effectivity for ordinances 2020-57E, 2020-58E, 2020-59E, 2020-60E, 2020-61E, 2020-62E, 2020-72E, and 2020-71E. For first and only reading with a 30-day effectivity, ordinance 2020-65. For the second and third reading with immediate effectivity is ordinance 2020-56E. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Cook, second by Mr. Lippert. All those in favor, yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And that does carry unanimously. All right. Bear with me a little bit. I'm doing double duty. Unfinished business. Ordinance 2020-56E, creating new business regulation code, chapter 731, nightclubs and nightclub promoters, and declaring an emergency for our second and third reading. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-56E? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll do roll call. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and that does pass. New business, ordinance 2020-57E, amending appropriations and encumbering funds for the purpose of providing possible assistance to businesses, nonprofits, and others in financial hardship and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-57E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley. Second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight? Or I'm sorry, Mr. Cook. I keep
Yes.
jumping you. Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Ordinance 2020-58E, amending appropriations for various funds. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-58E? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Tankersley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 59E, 2020-59E, acknowledging CARES Act expenses as necessary to combat COVID-19 and in compliance with federal, state, and local guidelines and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-59E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And that ordinance passes. Ordinance 2020-60E, an ordinance to make permanent appropriations for the expenses and other expenditures of the city of Sharonville, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021 and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Schmidt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Ordinance 2020-61E, transfer of funds for the year 2021 and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass this? So moved by Mr. Duda, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Ordinance 2020-62E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract with Logan Creek LLC for the Gower Park Playground Project and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Tankersley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley, oh, Mrs. Knight.
Mike was saying that Sue Cates got this grant for us. Are we going to do any like recognition for her for helping us get this? Because she applied for it in 2017, so.
Recognition, I mean, we'll
just
invite her.
saying thank you.
Yeah, we'll invite her to the ribbon cutting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just think it's great that, something that happened.
She's
so long
done so
ago.
many wonderful things in
Yeah.
our city. That's why we put her signature on the
Right.
big basketball court.
But I just think she
Yeah.
needs to know too.
Yeah, no, she will, we may even let her cut the ribbon
Okay.
and ride the first seesaw or
There we
whatever it
go.
is called. I'm sure she'll love it. Okay. So let's see, that was 60, she threw me off. Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
All right, that was 62E. There's a first reading for ordinance 2020-63E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract with CT Consultants, Inc. for the engineering and design of the US 42 Shared Use Path project and declaring, it says declaring an emergency, Jim, but it says first reading only on this. Is that a typo?
No, it's not a typo. Second and third reading, we talked about having it in the next council meeting and passing as an emergency at that point.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure I didn't mess up. Thank you. I don't want to be fired from my clerk's job. Ordinance 2020-64 is the first reading, adopting the recommendation of the Sharonville Planning Commission to accept dedication of public right-of-way on Lebanon Road. Ordinance 2020-65, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into contracts for the 2021 Street Repair Program, 2021 Curb and Sidewalk Program, 2021 Street Preventative Maintenance Program. And this is a first only reading. Is there a motion to pass 2020-65? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
All right, and that motion passes. First and only reading of ordinance 2020-66, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract to purchase highway salt for the 21-22 winter season and to replenish the city's salt inventory. All right. Ordinance 2020-67, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract to install new garage doors for the Public Works Garage. Ordinance 2020-68, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract for the replenishment of the roofs for the 3 Golden View Acre buildings. Ordinance 2020-69E, ordinance authorizing preliminary legislation as required by ODOT for the Sharonville to participate in the construction of the shared use path along US 42 from Reading Road to East Kemper Road with connection to Sharon Woods. It says E here, but it says first only. It should be an emergency? No? Okay. All right. Ordinance 2020-70E, ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a federal ODOT LET project agreement with ODOT and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2020-72E, authorizing 2 professional contracts with Focused Capital Solution LLC for legislative consulting services. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-72E? So moved by Mr. Cook. Second by Mr. Duda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Thank you. And we have one last ordinance. Emergency Ordinance 2020-71E, authorizing legal counsel for the city of Sharonville to pursue a motion to vacate the award of an arbitrator and declaring an emergency. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-71E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Lippert. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call. Mr. Tankersley.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Lippert.
Yes.
Mr. Duda.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mrs. Knight.
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay. I think we are through all of the legislation. There are no residents online that wish to be heard this evening. There's no one here. Are there any other matters besides everybody wishing everybody a Merry, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah? I believe that's still going on, and all the other wonderful holidays that are happening this time of year. Anybody else? Oh, ho, ho. Is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor, yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. I will hurt you.